Hello again, this is Luke Ranieri with my father Robert Ranieri. And this painting from 2010 is Thermae Decianae, The Baths of Decius. It's from the series Aventine Hill. It's another one of the paintings which is principally inspired by architectural forms of Greek and Roman architecture. Papa, what can you tell us about it?
Well, we have a painting here which now is generally shaped as a horizontal, and within this horizontal we have, I would say, three primary units. Although they overlap and integrate with one another, we have this on the left, this unit here. One could say this unit is actually one, but interceding are these three verticals. So
Yes.
one can see that this is a passage unto itself.
What do you mean a passage unto itself?
Well, it is an area that has a very specific, strongly demarcated verticals, 1, 2, 3, and of course they diminish in size. And one can say, well, is this a sense of perspective, like, say, trees or columns? They go back into the depth. And in a sense, that does happen. But of course, you notice they go out the bottom. So in a way, they could be noticed somehow to be associated with a space in front of the other materials. And yet, because they are painted with a rather cool lavender over the cool gray, they may want to recede. So we have a duality here. They come forward, they progress forward because of the size change, but because of the coolness, they are embedded in the hotter area of the larger shape behind it.
Right.
And that's one of the key tactics, one of many that the artist has at his disposal.
The artist being you.
Right.
That is something our viewers, or your viewers rather, probably know by now, that your style is very interested in changing that sense of perspective, what is in front and what is behind, so that there is no, in fact, right answer. The goal is not to confuse the viewer like an M.C. Escher illustration, but to create an enjoyable experience by placing things in front or behind and have that change as one wanders about the scene.
Yes, that's well put. And you can see here then, while we're on the right-hand side, roughly, let's say, half and half, although 1, 2, 3. So you have the play of numbers and the feeling of proportions, which is a subliminal, sometimes felt in the gut, sometimes seen intellectually early on. You can see how there's something happening here, which I ascribe to a kind of intercession of a quasi-figure-like image. And this has been painted in a way, not with a specific figure in mind, a pose that's recognizable, but a series of parts that are illuminated by a very limited light source. You can see almost a shoulder and arm.
Yes.
And then one has to, wander through this stacking of the parts, say, well, is it one figure or two? Or is it a figure that is seen, as we mentioned, in other works where you see it reduced to a torso only, no heads, no limbs.
You mean of yours? Like,
right.
Well, we saw recently the Judgments of Paris,
exactly,
where there were figures that were distinctly feminine and one that was distinctly more masculine, that is more angular or more rounded, respectfully. And this has both of those. This is not distinctly any figure, but you seem to have completely taken the essence of what a figure would be and yet given it unique personality at the same time, rather than, in fact, personness. I will coin that word today.
Right. Well, again, it's because of the vocabulary of a quasi-abstract, where some of the details are not there that one usually sees in a figure. And again, it's like a niche or a recessed area which is housed in this larger shape. And then as we navigate some more, we'll see there's another vertical gray here, which is a little darker than these three.
Yes.
So we have this division, and then this is a division between this whole section and the rest. So there's a various interplay of where the unit begins or ends and how it unfolds. So it is really a narrative abstraction, which is one of the terms that I have used elsewhere. But the abstraction is the kind of key, even though one, in viewing it, has to proceed in a certain rhythm and a certain sequence, depending on the mood and the eye of the beholder. Now, in this unit here to the left, we have a much more architectural, say, context, which is quickly readable because obviously arch shape and a two, and then a series of smaller ones. A unit within a unit. We have another gray here. This gray vertical bar plays against this, and they begin to, say, interact. What is further away, what is closer of those choices. This is a larger one, but because this, say, luminous dome-like form is so three-dimensionally developed, this whole thing can seem to come quite forward.
Yes.
And again, the idea is this unit, though small and seemingly far away, can it compete with this recessed figure element in terms of its immediacy to the viewer, or is it further away? So there's a lot of, say, tension established between different units.
Yes.
And of course, the stacking here, this arcing has been broken so that it's not competing with any other arcing.
Could you explain that? It's broken so that it doesn't compete? How is that?
If this were completely contained, it would be easily dispensed with, but because it is not, then this black area has its own autonomy. It can be seen as a single shape with its own necessity. And of course, the way the brushwork goes, you can see the evenness in the stroke that I'm giving it here, and how this is painted much differently. You can see it's a scumbling or a feathering of the paint.
Yes.
And I put a curved piece of steel here as a stencil so I could paint away from it and get a very defined edge, even though what's under doesn't necessarily reinforce that curve. So this is really on its own a kind of atmospheric condition. Is it a light of atmosphere around a rather solid construct? Or again, one has to say the materiality, the substance is at play here.
Yes. One
of denser, darkened shapes, or a clear stroke of a mixed color on the palette, or is it really a mixing on the canvas? Like this is kind of mixing on the canvas, and a lot of that occurred here too.
Right. So this is wood panel, isn't it? This is wood panel.
This is wood panel, yes. So the wood panel allows certain kinds of handling. The way it resists the assault of the brush, very different from the soft pliability of the canvas surface. And that's a big issue, Luke. I'm glad you brought that up. So furthermore, this has been painted, and it blocks out the orange. So you say, well, hot colors come forward and cool recedes. Red forward, blue back. But again, because of the way this is primarily painted in front, overlapping the orange, it has to come forward, even though, as again, we have this complexity where the things may be in space and how they are meant to come forward and defy the single, observance of what they are doing and how they are behaving. So it's a prolonged viewing experience.
It's an extraordinary and fascinating mastery of the effect of color on form, shape, and perspective. The contrast in particular between the more architectural forms, which have distinct lines, as opposed to the more figure-like form It's truly intriguing. There's a lot of that extraordinary diversity in this series called Aventine Hill, which your viewers can see more of at robertranieri.com. Grazie, Papa.
Oh, thank you, Luke.